Attendance enabled, guys. Can you guys please share the link of the class to some of your batchmates? I thought this is settled that this is going to be the recurring link for us. Some of your batchmates have sent me an email saying that they don't have the class link or something like that.
The class link has been provided.
Yeah, Tia, you can mark it as citizen. I mean, if you guys have some WhatsApp group, right? Please paste the link of the class there so that everyone can access it. I didn't send an email because I thought this one I have sent already, so but I'll have to check where is it. Mm, okay. Meeting link. Okay, I'll just send it to the guys who have sent email.
Sir, the attendance form is not working, I guess.
I have 24 responses, 25 responses already. Just check if you're responding to the correct email, I would say. I have 29 responses already. Uh, CS2.
Sir, it is saying that you need permission.
So then you are trying it from, maybe your personal email or what?
No, sir, I am using the institute email ID.
You should not see the see. This is some these are some of the things you should understand. This permission thing you will only require when there is some mix-up of Google account. Okay, so just do this. Open your email in an incognito mode and then try to do this.
Okay.
I have 47 responses already, so I'm pretty sure it is working.
Sir.
Is Priya here? Okay, I think there are more than one Priyas. So one Priya has sent me an email that she doesn't have the link, and she belongs to which section? CS2. Okay, so this is the same link. I just sent it to her. Okay, so there are 56 responses. I am assuming that things are fine, and you know, rest of you should also be able to eventually mark your attendance. Just have a look. Maybe whenever you are in doubt, just open your email in an incognito mode and then try it from there. It should work. Okay, but because I'm assuming it should work for most of you. I have 72 people already, 73. So I guess we can start. Um, so this week we only have two lectures because um, tomorrow is a holiday. In fact, this is the reason that I thought it will be difficult to conduct a lab also, because at the last moment I realized this. I had to talk to Neelu ma'am, and I had to tell the TAs that this week you have to do it on Monday, and I think they have some issues on Monday as well. So I thought it's much better to simply cancel it, and we'll start with the labs from the next week, because we don't have any holidays coming up in this semester at least. So from here onwards, it should run smooth. Okay, so today and day after tomorrow we will have live lectures. It doesn't mean that we have made a decision about switching to live lectures as of now. Um, Frankly, we have actually kept that decision as pending till now. What should we do? Um, who was it? Mansi? Uh, I who did I give the responsibility to collect the? Uh,
Yes, sir. So Shreya Tarve.
yeah, sorry, Shreya. Okay, I forgot who it was. So Shreya, can you so basically just send them one simple form now, okay? Just this option versus that option, okay? Um,
Okay, sir.
okay, I need a final call on this, that because after these two lectures, because you will also get the idea of how would the live lectures go today as well as day after tomorrow. We will have two live lectures, so then people will have a comparison. They can understand how will the two things differ from each other, okay, the pros and cons of the two methods, and then over the weekend decide upon one option, okay, and then we will go with that option for the rest of the semester. That is one. Second, I did try to register on Microsoft Teams as an educator, but it said that I need someone from institute's administration to sign up first. So I'm not really sure how to go about it. What kind of account shall I create? So any one of you who have more knowledge on Microsoft Teams, please contact me over email, and just help me out with that. I did try to create Microsoft Teams account, but I ran into some issues. I am actually too much. Uh, I have too much of workload right now to explore things. So if you already know what is the best way to go about it, just send me an email, and I'll try to look up Microsoft Teams as well. So from the next week onwards, if everything works fine, we may shift to Microsoft Teams. Provided that everything works fine. So otherwise, we'll continue with WebEx. Okay, so we have 80 people now on board, and I think we should start with the lecture. So let me just share my screen. And by the way, when I give live lectures, I cannot have a look at the chats because I'll be looking at my window. So if you have a question, the only way you can ask it is by unmuting yourself and asking. Okay, I cannot look at chats when I'm giving a live lecture. So if you have an issue, you'll have to unmute and ask. Okay, can you guys see my full screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start then. So we are now officially in week 6, and this week we have one of the most what can I say, cryptic concepts that are there in C language. It's called pointers, and a lot of people are actually scared of pointers, and that is why um, I've told this to you guys multiple times that C requires a very disciplined programmer, right? If you are not disciplined, there are so many ways in which you can burn yourself when you are using C, and this is one of that tool. Okay, this is the tool that people, if you are not disciplined, you can very easily burn yourself. In fact, one of the examples that I have shared in this week's sample programs is a program that specifically produces a segmentation fault. Okay, so this is just to show you why pointers are dangerous as well. Okay, but it is there, a very powerful concept of the C language, so we have to have a look at it. Anyone who says that I have done a course in C programming should certainly know what pointers are. We are not going to go into too much of depth because, as I've already said, the idea is not really to make you guys experts of C. The idea is that you understand different programming paradigms, and actually look at when you are trying to solve a problem. So that is why we are also going to look at pointers. So some recap of what we have already done. So we already know that what happens when we declare a variable. At least till now, what we've said is some space is allocated in the memory for storing a particular value. So if I say int I, it essentially means a space in memory has been allocated for storing an integer. And from now on, I'm going to call that space as I. From there on, we basically simply start using that memory location for multiple reads and writes. So all future assignments, manipulations, they actually are affected. They are basically affecting that particular memory location, right? And another concept that you guys already know is that of arrays. So arrays are basically a collection of individual variables, and another thing that we know about arrays is that they are allocated memory contiguously, that is one after another. And in order to access a particular variable in that particular array, we use an index. This index starts from 0 and it goes up to 1 less than whatever is the declared capacity of the array. So this we have already seen. So now there is something known as pointer variables in languages like C and C++. Okay, so what exactly these pointer variables do? They allow you to know more about this particular memory location, right? So till now we only cared about the name of the variable. We never really cared where exactly in the memory is this variable allocated. So a pointer is a variable that stores the address of another variable. So this is the first thing that you understand, that in normal variables, what I do, I say int I equal to 5. So what I store in I is a value. It is 5, for example, or it could be float f equal to 3. So then the value is 3.5 and the name of the variable is f. So usually whatever we have done till now, we have seen variables which can store values like integers and floats and characters and so on. A pointer is basically a variable that stores an address. It is not a value, it is an address of another variable. Okay, so in such case, the pointer can actually be used, the pointer variable can actually be used in an indirect fashion to access the same memory location, right? So for example, if I created a variable called I, and if I have a pointer variable that points to the same address where I is allocated, I can also use a pointer variable to do everything that I could have done with just I. Okay. So so this is basically how you declare a pointer variable. You put a star. Okay, this is the only difference between a regular variable and a pointer variable, that before a pointer variable you just put a star. Okay, and everything is exactly the same. So this is the type of your pointer variable, this is the name of your pointer variable, and there is a star. Okay, so what does this really mean? P is a pointer variable that points to a variable of type int. Okay, so now this is the catch here, that it is not really a variable that is going to store an int, it is a variable that is going to point to a variable of type int. So this data type that I am putting here, this basically is a signal to the compiler that I'm going to use this variable in order to point to an address, and that address will be of an integer variable. That is why I have this int here. Okay, but whatever this p is going to store, that is not going to be an integer. It is going to be the address of an integer variable. And to assign a value to a particular pointer variable, just like I would say I equal to 5, here I use the ampersand operator. Okay, so now many of you may have been a little this was a question that why do we put that ampersand in scanf. So we are now moving in that direction, that that ampersand is because you are actually providing an address to scanf, that whatever you scan, you have to go and put it at this particular address. Okay, so this is what that and operator is. Okay, so it's basically when you put and in front of any variable, it essentially means the address of this particular variable, right? So now what I'm doing is I'm doing int asterisk p, and this is a variable called I. Int I is equal to 5555, and then this is how I assign a value to a pointer. P is equal to ampersand I. Okay, where ampersand I represents the address of I, the memory location that stores the value associated with I. So if you just want to understand what it looks like, this is what it looks like. This is my memory. The memory, as we have already seen, it is numbered like this, and these are all my memory addresses: 1000, 1001, 1002, like this. Now in most of the machines, integers will take 4 bytes. So basically memory location 1001 to 1004 is, let us just assume that memory location 1001 to 1004 is being occupied by I, and it is storing a value 5555. When I create a pointer p, this is what it actually stores. And by the way, on most of the modern systems, a pointer will have 8 bytes. I'll tell you why, but for now just assume that this is going to take 8 bytes. So this p also is just another variable in the program. Okay, that too requires some space in the memory. So for example, p is getting stored from addresses 1201 to 1208. The value that p is storing, okay, it is the address of I. So I starts at 1001, and that is what p is storing, right? So this is the difference between p and I. P is a pointer variable. It points to another variable called I. So this is the whole basic idea of a pointer. A pointer variable points to another variable. That is the idea. Now the asterisk operator is it is an operator that can be used to dereference an address. What does dereferencing mean? So let us say I want to actually go and access this location. Okay, the location where actually I is storing its values, and all I have with me is just p. Then how do I go from this point to this point? This is where the asterisk operator comes into place. So then, in order to get the value stored at a particular address, I simply put asterisk. Okay, so basically this is what I really mean, that if I do int asterisk p, I equal to 555, and after that if I do something like this, the value of I is %d asterisk p. Please have a look at that. This is not p, this is asterisk p, and asterisk means value at p. So you read it like this, asterisk is value at. So basically this is printf, the value of I is %d comma value at p. So how would this be evaluated? The you are supposed to go, you are supposed to read whatever is the content will p, and then you have to go to that address and read whatever value is there, and then that value gets pasted here. This is the idea, right? So basically this prints the current value of I, and that is 5555. So thus in some way this ampersand and asterisk are kind of complementary to each other, right? So ampersand applies to nec variables, and what it simply says is ampersand I means address of I. So you read ampersand as address of, and you read asterisk as value
Sir,
at.
can you please repeat this slide again?
Which one?
Sir, यही वाली slide using pointer variable one.
Huh. So this one you didn't understand, this part?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically now, no, p is not a regular variable. What is it storing? it is storing an address instead of a value. It's storing an address. Now what if I actually want to go and read the value that is stored at the address that p points to? Okay, so this is the idea, that I want to actually, because in programs we really don't care much about addresses. We care about actual values, right? We have to manipulate, read, write values. So there has to be a way in which this can make sense, right? What if I just have pointers and there is really no way to go and read the value or write a value at that particular address? So this asterisk operator, it is also when you pronounce it, when you read the code, you pronounce it like value at p. Okay, so what value at means is whatever is the value stored in p. So in this case, let us just assume that p is storing the address of I, and what is the value? 1001. So you read it like this: value at 1001. This is what it means, which will essentially mean 5555. This is what the value at operator means. Okay, and it is basically the opposite of ampersand. Ampersand is applied to to any variable, and it is read as address of. Okay, so when I say p equal to ampersand I, it means p equal to address of I. Okay, so now this will assign hmm, this will assign 1001 to p, this particular statement, when I am doing ampersand I. But when I do asterisk p, it basically says as what it is saying is value at p. So whatever is the value stored at this particular location, whatever is p. Again, remember, p is another variable. It's not something from the outer space. It is another variable, just like I. P is also a variable. Okay, the only difference between I and p is I is going to store values like 5555 or 36 or -20, but p is going to store an address. And what kind of address? It is going to be the address of some integer variable, some integer. Okay, it cannot store, for example, the address of a float variable or a char variable or a double variable. What this declaration simply means is it will only store the uh, address of an integer type variable. Does it make sense now? This is basically value at, and this is basically address of, right? Because these are the two things you will need, right? In order to assign something to a pointer, you need to find out the address of some variable, and that you find using the ampersand operator. And if you want to actually go and manipulate that value or access that value, you need this star, the asterisk one, the value at operator. Does it make sense?
So when we are trying to assign the value, the address of I into
Mhm.
P, do we
Mhm.
write a P variable or we write asterisk P?
No, just p, right?
Okay.
Because what is it that basically um, p is, as I said, that this is going to be an address, right? Whatever is going to be stored at p, that has to be an address. So the right hand side has to be an address. If I make it asterisk p, what it becomes is, it then becomes an actual value, right? Or a place where you are going to store something. So if asterisk p is on the left side of equal to, you are basically saying, you have to move to this particular location. Value at this particular location is 5. So if I write something like asterisk p equal to 5556, then it basically, how is it interpreted? It is interpreted as the value at p should be 5556. Then essentially what the compiler does is it basically reads whatever is the address stored in p, it goes to that location in the memory, and then whatever is there on the right hand side, it is assigned there. But here I am just saying p equal to ampersand I means that so you understand that when I do p equal to something, the actual value that gets written is here. Okay, it is a simple assignment that any C variable, we have done this with any other C variable. It is simple assignment. Whatever gets changed, it will be put here. What asterisk p basically says is, whenever you do something with asterisk p, this value is never going to be affected. what is going to be affected? This value. You will either read this or write this. This is the idea. Does it make sense?
Yes,
You
sir.
don't, yeah, you don't put
Yes, sir.
asterisk here, right? You don't put asterisk here because you're assigning an address to I to P, okay, and that is why there is no asterisk here. But here I'm actually interested in the value that is there at this particular location, which is pointed by pointer. Okay, so P is a pointer; it points to a location, and when I do asterisk P, it basically means compiler should go to that location wherever P is pointing. And when I just say P, I'm just trying to assign P a value. So so that is why, right, ampersand and asterisk are kind of complementary to each other. Ampersand can be applied to any C variable, or what it is going to do is it is going to return the address of that variable, and that is why you now understand that why scanf has this percent, right? This ampersand when you are providing the variable names, right? So basically you are telling scanf scan a value and go and store it at this particular address. This is the idea. And asterisk is something that is the opposite of ampersand. Okay, ampersand is going to always return an address. Asterisk is basically going to say that whatever is the value at this particular address. Okay, so asterisk applies to a pointer variable only. Okay, if you do something like asterisk I, that will result in an error because I is not a pointer variable. Asterisk applies only to pointer variables, so you can only write asterisk P here and not asterisk I, right? Because basically it is saying it is asking the compiler to go to a particular location and return the value stored at the pointed address. So to print addresses of variables, so we have seen, right, we know you need some format specifiers, %d for integer, %lf for double, stuff like that. If you want to print the actual addresses of a variable, the format specifier is %p. On some systems it might result into a warning, but I don't think you should get an error anywhere. If you receive a warning, there are ways to get rid of that warning as well, but on most systems you should not. You should simply use %p, and it should not give even a warning. And the ampersand operator can be used with any type of variables. You have to understand this, right? The difference between ampersand and asterisk is that ampersand is a general operator, and it simply means address of. Okay, it could also be an address of the pointer itself, right? So basically this is perfectly valid. What I'm doing here is I'm doing P equal to and I, and then I'm declaring this int asterisk q is equal to and P. Now how do I read this? Basically this means q is a pointer variable that is going to point to a pointer variable which is going to point to an integer. So there's two level of redirection here. Okay, q is going to point to a pointer variable, the pointer variable is going to point to an I. Now don't be worried why we are having so many redirections as of now. You will understand the purpose of so many redirections when we actually see how this is used with arrays. Okay, in the next lecture we will see why we have these multi-dimensional pointers. What is the use of multi-dimensional pointers, that we will understand in the next lecture. But for now the idea is that you can have any level of redirection here. There can be a pointer to pointer to pointer variable as well, right? So this is a two.
You're not audible,
Of
sir.
P.
So you were not audible for 5 seconds.
Sorry. Um, so the idea is you can actually have these redirections for multiple layers. Idea is what q means here is q is going to point to a variable of type P, which in turn is going to point to a variable of type int. Does that make sense? The two asterisks here. So that is what I'm trying to say, that you can have any number of asterisks here. Okay, it is just one more level of redirection. That is the idea. Is it audible now? I mean, am I making sense? Am I audible now? Because I cannot see my.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you
sir.
are audible.
Okay, so this is the idea. It means Q stores the address of P. Uh, someone's mic is on. Okay, someone's mic is on.
गौरिया गौरिया बंद कर
That's the problem. Okay, sorry, because I cannot see the whose mic is on right now. Okay, so the idea is this, that this redirection. So what exactly is a pointer? It is a kind of a redirection that instead of accessing I directly, I am basically storing the address of I into P, and then I use asterisk P to do the same thing as whatever I am doing with I. Okay, I can actually have this redirection at multiple levels. Okay, so I can have an asterisk Q, which is basically pointing to P, and P in turn is pointing to I. Okay, so this is the idea. The two asterisks, okay, I cannot see what is here. Okay, now I can see.
सर यहाँ पे ये नहीं होगा कि एस्ट्रिक एस्ट्रिक क्यू है तो वैल्यू एट क्यू इज एड्रेस ऑफ पी
Yes,
तो
yes, yes.
सर ये क्यू के एड्रेस पे मतलब वो वैल्यू ऑफ पी वो कर देगा
So see, this is the idea. Can you see this code? Okay, so now I have written some code here. It is I equal to 5555 asterisk P equal to and I asterisk Q is equal to ampersand P. Okay, so now what is happening is I can access I like this. You can access I directly. You can access I like this asterisk P plus plus. So this is basically the same as saying plus plus I. I'm just writing plus plus asterisk P. And similarly, if I want to access I, you are absolutely right that if I just write plus plus asterisk Q, that will be actually incrementing the pointer's value rather than the value of I. So that is why if I am using multiple levels of redirection, I will have to use multiple asterisks like this. Okay, if I want to access I's value with Q via Q, I have to use two asterisks here instead of a single asterisk. Why? Because one asterisk will take me to P and another asterisk will then take me to I. Okay, so this is what is happening. This is the address of I is something like this, and basically the address of P is this. The address of Q I have not shown, I think, right? Yeah, the idea is something like this. Didn't I put? Yeah, this is the idea. This is the slide I was looking for. Now you have this Q. Go ahead.
Every time we print the address, then it keeps changing.
Pardon?
When every time we print address, then it's different also. When
It
we
is
print
different.
The address of, when we print the address of variable, then every time it changes.
No, address of the variable is going to be the same. So this you can see that I's address is the same. I mean, actually, I have not printed I's address multiple times. This is I's address. This is P's address. Okay, and what it is saying is the value of P is the address of I. This is what I'm trying to say. This is address of I. Okay, and this is the value that P stores because P is a pointer, and then the value that Q stores is the address of P. And this is what I'm trying to show you, that there is a multiple level redirection. If I create Q is going to store 1201, P is going to store 1001, and then I, the actual value of I is 5555. Okay, so if I put one asterisk before Q, it goes here. If I put another asterisk, it goes here. That is the idea. Okay, and this is what this program is doing. That I am basically accessing the same location via two redirections. this is one redirection, and this is two redirections. It is the same place. It is I only. It is going to increment the value of I only, but this is via two redirections, and this is via one redirection. Okay, and this is like direct assignment of I. This is the idea. Okay. Now, the amount of space that a pointer variable takes, it depends on your platform. Why? Because essentially, what is it that a pointer stores? It is going to store an address, right? So if your machine has only a limited number of addresses, that is exactly what a pointer variable needs. Okay, so let us go back to this particular example. Here I am assuming that my addresses are basically 8 bytes long, right? That is why I have shown that the pointer is taking 8 bytes. Integer is only taking 4 bytes, but the pointer is taking 8 bytes because in theory an address may require 8 bytes to 8 bytes of representation. This is the idea, right? Now it is possible that on a particular system the addresses are not 8 bytes long but 4 bytes long. On such machines the pointer variables are usually smaller. Now if you I'm not sure how many of you have that, but if you guys have turbo C on some machine, try to check the size of a pointer variable on turbo C. It is most probably 4 bytes only, right? Because turbo C was developed for 32-bit systems. Okay, and on 32-bit systems the addresses to it cannot go beyond 4 GB. And talking about an era where the RAM sizes were in MBs probably, right? So the system that I used for the first time, it had 128 MB of RAM, and I used turbo C over it. Maybe some of you may have seen some of these systems, right, with 512 MB of RAM or 1 GB of RAM. So the maximum amount of they used to be 32-bit systems, and in 32-bit systems the maximum size of your main memory could only be 4 GB. So in such cases your addresses only require 4 bytes of space, so your pointer variables will always be 4 bytes. And that is why I said that if you check up turbo C, I'm not sure whether there is a newer version of turbo C for 64-bit systems or not, but the original version was only for 32-bit systems, and that is why pointers used to take only 4 bytes on turbo C. On our modern systems they will most likely be taking 8 bytes, because the address can actually go beyond 4 GB as well. But in all cases, whether it is 4 bytes or it is 8 bytes, it will be only be one for your particular system, irrespective of what that pointer variable is pointing to. It could be an integer, it could be a float, it could be a char, or it could be another pointer. Okay, it is always going to take the same amount of space. Okay, so basically in the same program at the bottom I have also written these things, size of things, size of I, size of P, and size of Q. And if you run this is what you will get, that the size of I is 4 because I is an integer, the size of P is also 8, and the size of Q is also 8. And if I declare another pointer variable, let us say R, something like int asterisk 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 R, okay, and then point and assign ampersand Q to that, and I try to put the size of that R as well, that too will be 8. Why? Because any pointer is only going to store a particular address, okay, and the addresses can only be 8 byte long. So that is the idea, that the size of a pointer variable is a constant for a particular system. It could be 4 or 8 bytes, but whatever it is going to be exactly the same for all pointer variables, irrespective of the level of redirections or the type of variable that they are going to point to. Okay, so now one more thing that you can do with these pointer variables is that you can actually add or subtract integers to and from these pointer variables, right? So basically when I add a number and I add 1 to a particular pointer, it means now point to the next variable of the same type, right? So what it means is, if you add 1 to a pointer variable which points to a char, it will point to the next address. Why? Because characters are 1 byte long. So if it was currently pointing to, let us say, 1001, if I add 1 to this pointer, it will point to 1002. If I add 1 more to the pointer, it will point to 1003. Why? Because the type of pointer that this particular variable has is a character pointer. But if you actually have a pointer that is of type int, okay, it will jump ahead every time by 4 addresses. So even if I do p plus plus, in the previous example, p was an integer pointer. If I do something like p plus plus, it will actually jump ahead by 4 places. So if it was pointing to 1001, it will point to 1005. So this is an example. Here what I have is, I have a dummy variable and it is of type int, and I have a ptr which is basically storing the address of dummy. Now I am doing something like this, ptr plus plus. Okay, it is similar to what we do with integers, but the arithmetic of pointers is somewhat different. Now ptr is going to store an address, and when I do a plus plus, the amount of the next address that ptr will point to will depend on the type of int of the pointer. So here it is int. So then this is what will happen. By the way, the addresses are usually printed in hexadecimal. Okay, so this is what is happening. Just you know uh, at the beginning, I have this address 7c. Okay, and by the way, these addresses will be different when you run it on your system. Okay, this is what I got, but it will be different for you. So 7, so c, by the way, in hexadecimal, c means what is 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so c is essentially equivalent to 12 in hexadecimal. If you add 4 to 12, it becomes 16, and then it becomes, so basically in hexadecimal arithmetic, if you add 4 to 7c, it becomes 80. Okay, again, I'm not going to go into the number system world, but basically what I'm trying to say is, when I did ptr plus plus, it is now pointing to a variable that is 1 integer ahead. Okay, assuming that that particular memory location also stores an integer. And this is where the catch is, that the compiler will not stop you from doing these arithmetic over pointers, because it assumes that you are disciplined enough to know whatever you are doing. But this is the problem. Many a times, if you actually do this pointer arithmetic, you have to be extremely careful, because you might actually go to a memory address which is and try to manipulate it, which is illegal or unexpected, right? So what this particular program is also trying to do is, it is trying to um, emulate a particular situation where you are going to a memory location which you are not supposed to. Okay, there is a do while loop here, as you can see, right? It is an infinite loop, but it actually is not an infinite loop. Within a few iterations, most probably, you should have a segmentation fault. So when I do this, this is what happens, right? In the third iteration itself, it produced a segmentation fault. So what is a segmentation fault? I think some of you may have already seen it in your lab, or while working with GetS, or while trying to access array locations, something like that. The idea of segmentation fault is, when your program tries to access a memory location that is not allowed, or when your program is trying to especially when you're trying to write at a memory location that you are not allowed to, then you get a segmentation fault. So this is, as I said, right, C is a language where you can very easily burn yourself. So, and this is just an example that because you are allowed to do a pointer arithmetic, it doesn't mean that you do it all the time. Whenever you add or subtract anything from a pointer, there will be no compilation error. Keep this in mind. Okay, there will be a runtime error at the time of your program is running. It might actually go to a memory location that is not legal. Okay, or this, I think some of you have already experienced. you might actually write something at a memory location which is legal for you. Legal as in the memory location is actually a part of the same program memory. And by the way, there is a digression lecture that will be coming up sometime in this week. I should have actually put it before, but I was too busy. There is a digression lecture that I would like you guys to see, where I am going to explain how these processes and the memory related to a particular process is managed. Okay, a very brief overview. If you go through that lecture, you will understand what is the difference between illegal and unexpected operations. Okay, illegal operation is basically an operation where you try to access a memory location that is not allocated to your program, that is out of the bounds of your program's memory. And unexpected things happen when you actually write at a particular location which is legal as in it is a part of your program's allotted memory, but you are basically overwriting the value of some other variable. Okay, so you might see something absolutely weird. You never changed a particular variable, but its value gets changed, even though you were not changing it explicitly. Some of you have seen this in your uh, in the assignment that I gave. Okay, some of you were saying that even though when we were copying value from old array to new array or new array to old array, even though I was only changing the new array, the old array was also getting affected. Some of you had sent me these kind of queries. So this is exactly what you were doing. Okay, you were actually with the help of pointers, and you will see the relationship between arrays and pointers in the next lecture. Arrays and pointers have a very close relationship with each other. Arrays is basically a kind of pointer. So what happens is, many a times you might actually do illegal sorry unexpected pointer arithmetic using arrays, and you might see a situation which you never expected. So doing pointer arithmetic is something that requires a lot of discipline, and this is why usually you have to be very careful with it. Okay, and okay, so this is your homework. We won't discuss the homework here, that is your homework. But now I'm open to questions. I think I've what is the time? Oh yeah, I have finished off. So we have some 10-12 minutes of time. So let us, if you have any questions, we can now take them. Am I audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so if you have any questions, we can start.
Sir, if any segmentation fault occurs, then how can we run program?
How do we?
Run program. There is segmentation fault occurs.
Sorry, your voice keeps on breaking. How do we? What do you say?
So how do we run program if segmentation fault occurs?
In run program, no, your program exit, so your program has now come out, right? Your program has basically stopped. That is the idea. Segmentation fault means that your program has been killed. That is the idea. It has been killed by the operating system because you tried to do something illegal. So your program ends there and then and there.
Sir, so is there any alternative way to run program?
Sorry, I think what I'll do is something like this. I can probably go back to your chats, okay, so that I can also see the chats. Yeah, go ahead now. I can see your chats also now. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir,
Ask.
can you again explain illegal memory operations for
Can
this
you?
short one? So again explain illegal memory operations, sir, in
Yes.
short.
Yes. So the idea is something like this. I will share another lecture on this so that you can understand a bit more. But that will be a digression lecture. Okay, it's something um, that if you are only interested, you can watch it. But the idea is something like this: when you create a program or a new process, okay, operating system assigns some memory to you. Not in you. I mean the new process is assigned some memory in the main memory, your RAM. Okay, let us just say operating system assigned um, you know 100 kilobytes. It's too small, but let us, for the sake of understanding, it is 100 kilobytes. In fact, let's make it 100 bytes. It is much easier. So it says you can access memory location 1000 to 1099. Okay, this is Let me type it here. 100 to 1099. So let us say you created a new process, and when I say new process, basically I said when you run your program, a new process is created. So the operating system has given you 100 bytes to declare to create all the variables that you have in your program. Okay, so now assume that I have 3 variables of integer type. How much space do I need? 12 bytes, right? So let's say the first variable is allocated memory from 100 to 1003. The second one is allocated from 1004 to 1007, and the third one is 008 to 011. So let us say I created 3 variables in my program, and these variables are now allocated memory from at these locations. Now, if I create another pointer variable, and let us say it's allocated memory from 1012 to 1019. Okay, and then this pointer variable is pointing to the first variable 1100 to 1003. If I do a pointer plus plus, where will it point to? It will point to my next variable 1004 to 1007. So this is uh, a legal memory location within the space of my process, because my process space is 1100 to 1099, 100 to 1099. Now if I keep on adding more, if I keep on doing plus plus, pointer plus plus, pointer plus plus, it will keep on jumping the locations in the multiples of of 4. So basically, when I do another pointer plus plus, it will go to 1008. When I do another pointer plus plus, it will go to 1012, then 1016, then 1020, so on and so forth. There will be a particular time when it actually reaches 1100. Okay, now 1100 is something that is not allotted to me by operating system. Okay, it may be allotted to some other process in my system, and that particular location, it is not really like this. There is a concept of a virtual space and a physical space, but yeah, there is a mapping from virtual to physical space. So for now, don't get just assume that it is like this only, that from 1100 some other process starts. So if you try to access a memory location that belongs to another process, your operating system will complain. It will say, no, you are not assigned, you are not supposed to access this particular memory location, and I'm stopping your program here, then and there, right? And that is what happens when you get a segmentation fault, that basically your program is trying to access a memory location that is not legal for your process. Okay, again, to understand the integrate details of this, you need to understand how the memory model works for a program, and that is a little advanced for me to teach you. You'll probably need to understand certain concepts from computer organization, certain concepts from operating systems to understand it. But the idea, what you can take away from here is, whenever you run your program, it is allotted a fixed amount of memory, and all your variables are allotted in that small amount of fixed memory, and your program is only allowed to access memory locations which fall in that memory range. If you try to access any memory location that is outside that memory range, there will be a segmentation fault. Okay, this is as simple as you can as of now understand. So Rohan has a question: asterisk asterisk p equal to and I. So what is the type of p here, and what is the type of I here, Rohan?
Sir, both are int.
Yeah, that is wrong. That is illegal. Illegal,
Okay,
as
sir.
in you will get a compilation error itself. It won't compile.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any more queries?
So,
Yeah.
so the type of pointer variable will always be int because address is always in integer.
No. Type of pointer variable can be anything. The address, the amount of space it will take is always going to be constant. Okay. When I say type of, it basically means you can now understand why I need the type of a pointer variable. I need it for this pointer arithmetic. So if you are declaring something like float asterisk p, okay, so if I do p plus plus, now whatever location p was pointing to, again float is also 4 bytes, sorry, so let us call it double asterisk p, okay, and let us say p points to the location 1000. If I do p plus plus, p will now point to 100, double is what, 8, right? So then it will point to this. Does it make sense? And if I do something like this, int asterisk p, and let us say again p is pointing to 1000, and if I do p plus plus, now p will become 1003. So now you understand why we have this type associated with the pointer. It is required for this pointer arithmetic. Whenever I do a plus plus or a minus minus, exactly how many spaces in the memory should I jump to, in order to understand that is why compiler requires you to tell whether it is going to point to a double type of variable or an int type of variable. Okay, this is why it is required, so that it can understand how many spaces to go forward or go backward. That is the idea. Yeah, any more queries?
So the type of variable that we are pointing to through the pointer variable, both will have the same type, means int asterisk. They will always have the same type.
Yeah. So int asterisk p can only point to, let us say, int I. It cannot point to float I.
Okay, sir.
Any more queries?
आपने एक जो स्टार्टिंग किया था p पॉइंटर, और उसमें p जब असाइन किया था तो स्टार p इक्वल्स टू एड्रेस ऑफ i की जगह, मतलब asterisk p इक्वल्स टू,
let me go to that. Anything here? हाँ, I mean, is there anything from this? इस स्लाइड में से कुछ है जो आपको पूछना है?
यस सर, जैसे आपने स्टार्टिंग में इंटीजर पहले एक पॉइंटर बनाया p नाम से, और उसमें p इज इक्वल्स टू एड्रेस i एंटर करवाया, बट सर आप स्टार p में ही एड्रेस i डाल रहे हैं, तो इससे कुछ डिफरेंस नहीं होगा?
एक्चुअली हिमांशु, आपकी वॉइस ब्रेक हो रही है बीच में.
सर जैसे आपने इन डिक्लेयर किया है पॉइंटर p,
हाँ,
उसमें आपने जब एड्रेस,
हाँ, ये यहाँ पे एम्परसेंट लगेगा, यहाँ पर एम्परसेंट लगेगा. दिस इज द आइडिया.
सर वेबसाइट में एस्ट्रिक p,
यहाँ पर इस जगह पे.
यस सर, एस्ट्रिक p नहीं क्या, बट जब आप दूसरे कोड में डिक्लेयर करते वक्त ही एड्रेस डाल रहे थे, तब आपने वहां पे यूज कर रहे थे.
यहाँ पर देखो, यहाँ पर इस एस्ट्रिक का मतलब कुछ और है, और यहाँ पर इस एस्ट्रिक का मतलब कुछ और है. ठीक है, ये दोनों एस्ट्रिक अलग अलग हैं, कहने का मतलब ये, राइट. यहाँ पर हम एस्ट्रिक का मतलब बता रहे हैं, जब हम डिक्लेरेशन के टाइम पर एस्ट्रिक यूज करते हैं तो हम ये बता रहे हैं कि हम एक पॉइंटर वेरिएबल बनाने जा रहे हैं, और बाकी जब हम एक्सप्रेशंस में एस्ट्रिक p यूज करते हैं तो हम ये बताते हैं वैल्यू एट p. क्या ये आपका क्वेश्चन है?
तो सर हम तब एस्ट्रिक यूज नहीं कर सकते?
यहाँ पर नहीं, यहाँ पर नहीं, इसलिए क्योंकि एस्ट्रिक का मतलब क्या है? एस्ट्रिक का मतलब क्या है? ये एक तरह का रीडायरेक्शन है. रीडायरेक्शन का मतलब क्या है? यहाँ पर जो कुछ भी है, जो भी वेरिएबल यहाँ पर है, कंपाइलर को बताया जा रहा है कि इस पर्टिकुलर वेरिएबल से आपको काम नहीं लेना है. इस पर्टिकुलर वेरिएबल पे जो वैल्यू स्टोर्ड है उसके ऊपर जाकर के उसको यूज करना है एक्सप्रेशन में. सॉरी मेरा कनेक्शन चला गया क्या? आपको आवाज आ रही है हिमांशु?
Yes, sir.
ओके ओके। सो यहाँ पर जब हम केवल p यूज करते हैं, वो हम इसलिए यूज कर रहे हैं क्योंकि हमें p के अंदर एक वैल्यू स्टोर करनी है। जैसे यहाँ पे आपको दिख रहा होगा, ठीक है ना, ये p है, इस p के अंदर मुझे एक एड्रेस स्टोर करना है। इसलिए ये एक नॉर्मल असाइनमेंट ऑपरेशन है C का। हम जब असाइनमेंट करते हैं तो क्या करते हैं, एक वेरिएबल का नाम लिखते हैं और यहाँ पर एक वैल्यू देते हैं। तो एक्चुअली एक पॉइंटर वेरिएबल के लिए एक एड्रेस एक वैल्यू का काम कर रहा है, इसलिए यहाँ पर हम p इक्वल टू %i लिख रहे हैं। और यहाँ पर हम एक रीडायरेक्शन चाह रहे हैं। रीडायरेक्शन क्यों? क्योंकि एक्चुअली हमें i की वैल्यू चाहिए, इसलिए हमें एक एस्ट्रिक लगाना पड़ रहा है। यहाँ पे एस्ट्रिक एक तरह का रीडायरेक्शन है, वैल्यू एट, इसका मतलब है वैल्यू एट p, इसलिए यहाँ पर एस्ट्रिक नहीं लगा हुआ है। ये एक सिंपल असाइनमेंट है कि आप p को एक वैल्यू असाइन कर रहे हो और वो वैल्यू एक्चुअली में एक एड्रेस है। और यहाँ पर आप वो जो भी एड्रेस p के अंदर स्टोर्ड है, आप उस पर्टिकुलर लोकेशन पर रीडायरेक्ट करना चाहते हो अपने कंपाइलर को, कि इस पर्टिकुलर एक्सप्रेशन में जो वैल्यू यूज होगी उसको वहां से जाकर रीड करो। इज माय वॉइस क्लियर?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
कैन यू हियर मी
Yes,
नाउ?
sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, it's okay from your side.
it's clear.
Okay, fine. So yeah, sorry, so we have actually run out of time. So this is the idea. We will continue with the pointers discussion tomorrow, sorry, day after tomorrow. Okay, and again, the lecture is available, the slides are available, and the example programs are available on Google Drive. I will put the lecture, the recording as well. Okay. Okay guys, sorry we don't have much time left, so let's meet on Wednesday now. Okay, bye guys.